Hey everybody! If you are a longtime viewer, you'll have already noticed this is a different sort of video. Different background, different theme. And if you are a new viewer, hi, welcome, go check out my other content. We are going to be talking about whether or not you should try the new Disney-themed trading card game, Lorcana. And my answer is yes. And the number one reason why is because it's a lot of fun. I had never heard of Lorcana until I went to Gen Con, and it was everywhere. Not just the marketing material, but the hype as well. People were lined up for an hour and a half just to get a chance at some starter decks or some promo cards. Now, I want to preface this entire thing by saying I am not a trading card game player. I haven't touched Magic in 20 years, I'm clean from nerd crack. And nor am I a Disney adult. I enjoy the movies, I had a good time at the theme park with my family, but if you open my closet, you're not going to find autographs, memorabilia, the little Disney pins. It's not my fandom. But seeing all that excitement made me want to give it a try. And I'm glad I did, because I've been playing ever since. The hype is real. Lorcana is built on the lessons learned from the past 30 years of trading card games. They took all the stuff that I really liked from Magic, from Pokemon, and they threw out most of the stuff that I thought was unfun or frustrating. Alright, if you're still with me, that probably means you're a little bit curious. So you're probably wondering, how can you play? Today is the launch of the cards at retail stores, and notionally they've been available at your friendly local game store for the past couple weeks. But in reality, the cards themselves are really hard to come across. They're very popular and the game is on fire. So you can play online. There is an online client called Pixelborn, and that's the second reason you should try it, is because it's free. Well, for now. The link is posted in my Discord. And I've got to be honest, the Pixelborn app is kind of wonky. It's a fan-based project, but it's getting better every single day. And it has all the stuff you'd expect from an online tabletop. There's deck building, matchmaking, and a really strong community talking about the game and how to use it. And now for the other type of how to play, the rules, or at least the basic rules. The object of the game is to be the first player to acquire 20 lore. The main way to do this is by sending characters on quests. The resource of the game is ink. In the upper left-hand corner of each card, there is a number telling you how much ink you need to spend to play that card. And some of those have a little gold border around them. Those cards can be placed face down and then spent as ink for the rest of the game. Right now, there are three types of cards: characters, items, and actions. Character cards also have a body line, or stats for their power and their defense, or their strength and their willpower, I think that's called in this game. And it also tells you those little diamonds on the side is how much lore they get each time they go on a quest. Once you pay the ink cost to play them, both characters and items stay on the board until they're banished to your discard pile. But actions are one-time use. Some actions are also songs, which means that a character can sing them instead of you paying the ink cost to play them, which I think is a really cool, evocative mechanic. The main mechanic is you exert your cards by turning them sideways until the start of your next turn, just like tapping in Magic. You exert your inked cards in order to spend them on new ones, and characters need to exert in order to quest or to challenge another character, attacking that other character. And characters can't be exerted the turn they are brought into play because the ink is still drying, again with the theming. However, and this is an important bit, you can only challenge a character that is exerted, and that leads to the first core tactical tension that's built into the game. You're always asking yourself, do I send this character to quest? Because by doing so, you're making it vulnerable to be challenged and banished by your opponent. The second sort of key tension in this game is you're always thinking, do I place this card in my inkwell to gain the resource and never play it? Or do I keep it in my hand to play now or later? Making those interesting choices every turn is one of the things that keeps me engaged with this game. You may have noticed that these cards are different colors and you're asking yourself, why is that? Well, it's because there are 6 different colors of ink, each with a different theme and playstyle attached. Now, there's no evil ink and good ink, they both have heroes and villains in all the colors, but the idea is you want to combine 2 of them to make your deck. Really quickly, I'm going to go over the colors, what they mean, and pick out some cards I think exemplify the theming. First up, we have Amber. Amber cards are purposeful. They are typically low cost, like Lilo right here, who drops for 1, yet quests for 2. And they also tend to protect and help you as opposed to harming your opponent. Simba right here has a bodyguard feature. When he is out, your opponent has to attack him before he can attack the rest of your characters. Amber also has the only healing mechanics in the game right now. Rapunzel right here, fantastic card. When you play her, you can heal damage from your characters. Sapphire cards are intellectual, and they are the only color in the game that has cards that let you ramp up. What I mean by that is normally by rule, you can only play 1 ink per turn, but Sapphire has lots of cards that let you bend and break that rule. For example, Grandma Tala here, when she is banished, that card is killed, you get to place her face down in your inkwell instead of in your discard pile. And I think that's another great example of how we're leaning into this Disney theme. If you remember in the Moana movie, once the grandmother dies, she comes back later to help Moana, and so it is in the game. Sapphire also has a lot of cards that let you benefit from items, like Belle right here. The more items you have in play, the stronger she becomes. And again, I want to point out that I'm picking out cards I think exemplify the theme, not necessarily the strongest ones in each color, which is why I have this Belle in here instead of Best Belle. Next up, we have Emerald. Emerald cards are flexible. If you look at this character right here, Flynn Rider, his stats are pretty okay, but he has a cool ability that lets you mess with your opponent. Whenever he is challenged, your opponent has to discard a card. And lots of things in Emerald are like that. Mother Knows Best bounces the character back, and arguably Cusco is the best card in the game. He has a ward feature, which means he can't be targeted by effects, and whenever he is banished, he banishes the challenging character right back. No touchy. Ruby cards are daring. Compared to the other colors, the cards tend to be more expensive in ink to play, and the character's more aggressive. Right now, Ruby also has the only methods to remove lore from your opponents. For example, when you play this Aladdin card, your opponent loses 1 lore. And when he grows up into Big Aladdin, you steal 2 lore from your opponent. They lose 2 and you gain 2. And that is another cool feature in this game, is the ability to shift one character into another version of themselves. Ruby also has methods to banish characters without dealing damage, like Be Prepared, wipes the board clean, Armageddon style. Arguably the best card in the game. Ruby also has a lot of very powerful characters, like this 9-drop Maleficent. It's gonna take you a while to play her, but once she's on the board, good game. Steel characters are strong. A lot of them are offensive in nature, like Captain Hook gets a +2 bonus whenever he challenges another character. That's not there when he's on the defense. Steel also has a lot of ways to directly damage your opponents, like Smash. And Steel is also the only color that has a method of gaining lore without questing. Like TK, when she kills an opponent, you gain lore. And finally, we have Amethyst. Amethyst cards are wondrous, and the main theme seems to be about card control or hand control. They have lots of cards that let you draw other cards, like Magic Mirror. And Doc right here lets you draw cards back from your discard pile. Not something you see in anywhere else. The other way Amethyst lets you manipulate the game is with cards like Elsa and Big Elsa, which lets you exert your opponent's characters. So that is the basics of the game, how you'd actually go about playing with somebody else. But there's also something called the metagame. If the game is about the rules and what's going on at the table, the metagame is how you prepare to build your deck, thinking about which decks you might be facing up against. I know this is an oversimplification. I'm looking forward to hearing everyone in the comments telling me why. But there are 3 basic types of decks you can go with. Aggro decks, control, and mid-range. With aggro decks, you're trying to win quickly using low-cost cards. With control decks, you're trying to slow down your opponent and then win at the end with big cards. And not surprisingly, mid-range decks are in the middle. You want to beat your opponent's weak cards and then win before your opponent can play big cards. Ideally, we'd like to have these 3 deck styles in sort of a rock, paper, scissors situation. And that's sort of developing, and it's going to continue to develop as we get more and more chapters of Lorcana. But player skill, both the tactics at the table and in deck building and luck, are always going to play a big part. Alright, if you've been paying attention, you may have noticed that not all the character art shows the canonical versions of them from the movies. Now, the reasons for this aren't exactly clear. What we know of the story of Lorcana is just based on a few snippets online and what we can glean from the flavor text of the cards. But besides the storyborn characters, there seems to be a couple of variants. The first is these Dreamborn characters, which seems to show an aspiration of the character or what they would like to be, like Jafar if he had gotten the lamp. The other ones are these Floodborn characters, which seems to be the characters if they were transported or drawn into a new world. So we have Hook thinking a happy thought, which is a card that makes me smile, and Giant Tink, which again is one of my favorite cards in the game. Personally, I love these variants. I think they're playful, I think they're imaginative, Plus, just imagine if we had to stick to what was strictly seen in the movies. We would quickly run out of content. It was a bold decision, and I'm glad they made it. Yeah, so that pretty much wraps up this video. I hope I convinced you to give Lorcana a try. If you're interested, you can sign up for Pixelborn in my Discord. And if you like this, remember to subscribe. See ya!